So welcome back to Third Red Content. Today we're going to be covering more of the ghosts of Shrewsbury. I thought we'd get back into this. It's Halloween and some of them are really interesting, and it also gives us a chance to visit some of these wonderful buildings and learn a few things about them, like all ghost stories do. History goes along with them, so buckle up and trick or treat. I'll see you out here. So the Parade shopping centre, with its history going right back, like all of Shrewsbury town centre, it's got its fair share. So let's have a look inside once again and see if we can share any with you. The Parade shopping centre, which was formerly the Royal Shrewsbury Infirmary from the 1700s right up to the 1970s, is said to be one of the most haunted buildings in Shrewsbury. And when you think about all the battles for life that have been made on these very halls, some of them ending happily and many being the final battle for life, and leaving, I'm sure, many memories indelibly etched in perhaps the very masonry or just in the atmosphere of this former hospital and now shopping centre. It was a mansion stood on this ground before the infirmary. For this building, the second infirmary, purpose-built in the 1800s. And what stood here before that, who knows? But as we say, this site of Shrewsbury has been occupied for who knows how long, and many memories preceding the hospital, I'm sure, have been made, and perhaps echoes left that perhaps people see from time to time. But this first ghost is seen at what is now the cafe in the Parade and was once the kitchens of the Royal Shrewsbury Infirmary. This entity is said to resemble a Victorian matron. It is said that both staff and customers alike have felt the cold presence of something or someone while they make coffee and drink coffee in today's, not kitchens, but cafe. Another ghost that is said to haunt down here in the basement is that of a grey lady. The lady's period dress is unknown, but what is known is that when she stood at the end of a patient's bed, or was seen to be standing at the end of the patient's bed, the patient's end would soon follow. This ghost was sighted from the Victorian times right up until the hospital's closure in the late 1970s. And members of staff at the hospital would even move the patients' beds after sighting the grey lady at the end of the poor patient's bed. But irrespectively of whether they moved them, the patient's end was imminent. So the grey lady, a wraith-like appearance and a wraith-like effect on human life. Another ghost that is said to haunt the basement floor here at the Parade is that of an old man who was said to come here from the 1700s when a soup kitchen was established here for the poor folk of the town, and he is said to still be waiting for some hot soup on a cold winter's day. And we're just coming up to winter, so I wonder if there's going to be any sightings of him this year. The top two floors of the Parade are now apartments, and it is said that many residents have heard in the nights, in the quiet of nights, the sounds of the hospital, the trundling of wheels, the cries out of anguished patients in pain, and other ghostly sounds of a hospital that is no longer here. But there's so many things that are no longer here, and on a site like this that has been in constant use for probably thousands of years, with churches everywhere. And as we know, old churches, and these are all really ancient churches, pre-Christian pagan sites were occupied by Christian churches in the subsequent years. Actually, they were directed to be occupied on former pagan sites by the Pope, and you wonder why these sites were selected by people back in time immemorial. Was it because of a certain quality of light, or was it because of their accessibility, or was it for other reasons that we don't quite remember or understand? And you wonder that these sites, are they what they call a thin area or a liminal space where we're closer to other dimensions? This is just, I'm putting out, the question. And is that why there is increased frequency of strange sightings, paranormal and possibly ghost sightings on these areas? Who knows? But they're very old sites that we're visiting today, and that we always visit on Third Rate Content. Got to keep an open mind. Yeah, so we're down here in Fish Street. In remembered time, it was obviously where the fish mongers and fish would be sold and gutted, and the guts would be strewn around this street. But with so much history, it's obviously got ghost stories. Let's find out about a few. In 1725, the streets of Fish Street were widened on the order of the Shrewsbury Corporation. This was to make them safer for pedestrians, and the only way possible to do this was to move graves. 6 of them were taken, and the headstones, I think we're going to see later, were laid on the other side of the church. What happened to the remains remains a question, along with who they were and how long they had lain there. A ghost of a man in dark clothing is said to haunt the shop unit that we're looking at here. He's said to stand at the back of the shop and has been seen on multiple occasions. Some believe that the man could be one of the inhabitants of the disturbed graves, who now forever walks and haunts Fish Street after his eternal resting place was desecrated. The Tower of St. Orkman's is said to be haunted by a ghost. It could either be one of two. I'll tell you about both, and you can tell me in the comments which one you like best. The first ghost lover of heights was the steeplejack George Archer. In 1780, he climbed the tower 3 times in one day for a wager. For the first 2 climbs, everything went fine. Unfortunately, on his final ascent, he was inebriated, and he had been in the Three Fishes drinking. He climbed the tower feeling cocky, and unfortunately he slipped and fell. As they say, it wasn't the fall that killed him, it was hitting the ground. Their steps in the very heart of Shrewsbury. Although I'm not naming any notable ghosts, just the human traffic that has passed here over countless centuries may have left its mark for those sensitive to these things. And with the original Shrewsbury market being here, and the town's ducking pond, the emotions, both positive and negative, that have been felt here must have been countless once again. During the 1800s, the parson of St. Alkmund's told his parishioners with adamant fervour that the ghost on the spire of St. Alkmund's was not the steeplejack. It was, in fact, the devil himself. The preacher got the idea from old Shropshire folklore that stated that the devil liked to come to Shrewsbury and climb the tower of St. Alkmund's to look back across to the South Shropshire Hills and see if he could see his throne, the devil's chair. And just walking around this graveyard, the thought sort of comes to mind that the graves, the generation that laid graves reveres them. The generation that follows, they're a curiosity, and then the subsequent generations, they become in the way and something to be got rid of and forgotten about. In many cases, St. Julian's churchyard, originally named after the Greek saint, St. Juliana, and later renamed. It was here in the back churchyard where the screams were heard in Fish Street after the servant of the rich man who was staying in the Lion Hotel was buried alive. And in such a small area, we've had 2 deaths from extremes. One plunged from many hundreds of feet to his death on the cobbles below, while the other man was buried alive, only to scream out his last 6 feet under while he still breathed and struggled in vain for his life. It's very autumnal here today in St. Alkmund's churchyard, and the evidence of the gathered leaves and horse chestnuts and other things from the summer, or the dead foliage being gathered together. And this is a tradition that has been going on since human existence, gathered together and then burnt as the sun dips and it enters its lowest house of the year. Fires were lit. Originally, anything was chucked on them, including the bones of dead animals from sacrifices and eating. And these great fires were lit by the Druids, and they became known as bonfires and then bonfires. And the fires of Samhain, later known as Halloween, were to entice the sun back in the spring, and after his period of death, to have the rebirth of the summer months, spring and summer months. I wonder if these are the very graves that were disturbed and desecrated all those years ago, now trodden daily underfoot. What was once a decorative memorial to a beloved family member is now a footpath and decorative curiosity. Just behind me is Butcher Row, known as the home of the butchers and butchery and killing of animals in Shrewsbury for many years. Let's find out about some of the ghost tales that pertain to this area, not least the many animals that were slaughtered here. So Butcher Row takes its name from the many butchers who would ply their trade on this street that runs from the middle of Pride Hill up to Bear Steps. But I'm not saying it right or wrong, I'm not taking sides. I do eat meat, but so much blood would have been spilt on this street, the blood of animals, over centuries. The Prince Rupert is one of Shrewsbury's name independent hotels, and it's named after Prince Rupert, nephew of King Charles I and the 17th century soldier and polymath. with the hotel dating back in its present form to the 1700s, there has been many tragedies over the years, suicides, etc., and the building is said to be haunted by these. A creepy story. In the 1980s, a professional medium was staying at the hotel. The troubled clairvoyant told their manager that by going down the spiral staircase into the kitchen, a young maid by the name of Martha could be seen, and she asked why the gunshots had been fired. The hotel manager thanked the medium, but told them that they did not have a spiral staircase. They had no one named Martha working for them at that time, and that gunshot would have probably been heard throughout the town, although I wonder if it would have been heard in the basement. I don't think anything would have come up, any sound may have come up through that from there. But anyway, they didn't have anything. They probably thought the psychic was a bit of a crank at that time. Then a few years later, the hotel changed hands, and the new owner, as often happens in these cases, wanted building work done. A floor was being altered when the builders discovered a spiral staircase disappearing into the darkness beyond the reach of their torches. At the bottom of the spiral staircase was an old kitchen, and there was a skeleton. The skeleton was a girl dressed in the garb of the 1700s. She had been killed by a gunshot, and it was the last time that it was recorded that an individual named Martha worked at the Prince Rupert. So make what you will of that tale. The Abbot's house here on Butcher Row was the home to the abbots of Lilleshall Abbey from the 1450s onwards. They had it built, they had money, but they rented out the bottom floors to butchers. So this is where, and many of the other buildings on Butcher Row, this is where the bloodletting happened for centuries. While in this incredibly old building, the Abbot's house, there are no firm ghost sightings reported, interestingly. Though there have been sightings of a grey mist or a miasma, and some believe that this could be the souls of the many thousands of slaughtered animals whose blood ran down Butcher Row and right onto Pride Hill on busy butchery days. And yeah, some believe that it could be some animal memory, a charnel animal memory. Here at Lads and Dads on Butcher Row, there have been several reported sightings of a figure in black that simply vanishes into the ether. Some have said the figure had a Victorian appearance, while others have said they could not tell what the manner of dress he had on, other than it being dark. I wonder, is it a case of people seeing sometimes something that they make sense of, a strange thing that they make sense of, and they simply think it's a ghost, and it must be wearing old-time dress from the Victorian or Georgian times, or medieval maybe, and it could be something else. The human mind can adapt to things and make sense of many strange situations. Who knows? But I call that theory super rational, not supernatural. Though with this site formerly being a public house, it is thought by some that the figure could be a former publican who died tragically while moving barrels in the pub. Did you know Back in time immemorial, this area of Pride Hill, where it joins on with Butcher Row, was known on very busy butchery days on Butcher Row as Double Butcher Row. Of course, the actual Double Butcher Row was pertaining to all the blood that would have been draining off down Butcher Row and on to Pride Hill. So obviously Pride Hill took on the name Double Butcher Row. We've all been under our feet here. We've been sloshing through it. Here on Pride Hill we see what is now the Vodafone store. In the late Victorian era, this building was owned by the British and Colonial Meat Company. An entity who some say looks like a man has been seen in the back storeroom in this store. Some believe it to be a ghost of a butcher, while others think it could be the ghost of the landlord of the nearby Greyhound pub. Who knows? And could it be something different? You make your own minds up. Now on High Street, where a figure that resembles a young girl has been seen on a number of occasions. Just here on Castle Street and just behind me is the current H&M, but it was formerly Woolworths. But before that, it was the Raven Hotel, because that is just a brick facade that covers the much older building that still sits there, just covered up and hidden. But it seems the building still has tales to tell, as employees of Woolworths and subsequent stores have seen the figure of the young girl in the basement of the former coaching inn, and staff were said to not want to go down to the basement after a certain time on their own. And you wonder what was, if it is a young girl or a female, what was going on in her life that led to perhaps the emotion spent leading to a memory being left in the area. Just heading off Castle Street into Castle Court, into this courtyard that the house on the right was known as the old police house, with the building on the left being the predecessor to the Dana prison. Yeah, here in Castle Court, just off Castle Street, at the site of the former Shropshire County Jail, or gaol as it was spelt then, but it really wasn't a site of jollity or laughter, because it was also where executions took place. Here there have been reported sightings of a headless man walking, but in both the upper floors and lower floors. You can't help wonder if these sightings are of prisoners held here over many years, their emotions pent up in the cells, or of people killed here, executed in this site, or something else, something older, something earlier. And I'm sure sightings will continue over time. And I have no reason to disbelieve any of the sightings, the ghost sightings that have been documented today. But I've took the information from various Shrewsbury ghost books, some of them, some of the stories from Martin Woods and others. So yeah, I'm sure their sources are good. People through the ages believed that this time of year, Samhain, as we know it, Halloween, was the time when the worlds almost touched each other, when they could communicate with their ancestors more easily, and just when communication with the spirit world was far easier. Also, it was the time of year of kind of death. It still has that feeling today, especially in areas like this, where hangings and executions took place. And it's almost like the memories, if not the ghosts, I didn't see any ghosts today, but the memories are still lingering in these places. Here is where the hanging cell would have been. When this building, the first floor of this building was a restaurant, feet and legs were seen to be just levitating in the middle of the dining room with no top half. It's unreported just what happened to those portions of the body, or ghostly body, but other faces have been seen peering through windows, almost leering at people who worked in this building through the years. Surely an unnerving sight to behold. You know, and I kind of have changed my my tune on ghost stories. Shrewsbury's riddled with them, and as I've said, places like Shrewsbury are ancient, and they've been habitated for so long. And as we've found out with so many churches we've visited, Christian churches are on the sites of previous pagan places of worship. And with so many churches in the town of Shrewsbury, it does make you realise, or make you think, that it was probably a place of, as well as habitation, of sacredness to our ancestors. So there's bound to be paranormal and strange activities, and you know, possibly with so much ancient stonework around, if you follow that stone tape kind of theory, where record memories and kind of things that happened are recorded in tape on stone, not in literal tape. The stone records it like tape, or like a digital device records things and then plays them back. Who knows, it could be a layer of science that we haven't actually discovered yet. I mean, like a lot of supernatural things, the name supernatural, natural, something we understand, and the super element of it comes in with us not being able to explain it. You got to keep an open mind, I think. But thank you for watching to the end of today's trip round Shrewsbury, our sort of light investigation, and hearing some of the stories, some of the tales that people have claimed happened to them in and around Shrewsbury, with sightings of ghosts and strange people in period dress, completely out of the ordinary for that time. So anyway, if you did enjoy, or got scared, or just enjoy, you know, felt the bit of eeriness or unease, please give us a like, subscribe. It really does help the channel at the moment. And a comment if you'd got anything you'd like to say. Please feel free to use the free speech forum that is the free third-rate content comment section. So anyway, if I don't see you soon, I'll see you 3 times as soon. Third-rate content signing out on this Halloween, this end of the year, end of the useful part of the year where it's a bit of light. But anyway, thank you. Good night. Bye bye.